Welcome once again to Commander by Danon. Today's video was brought to us by Patreon supporter Aaron. Huge thanks to Aaron and the rest of my Patreon supporters. Aaron reached out asking for a deck led by Riku of Two Reflections with a hidden commander, and I was more than happy to build that for him. If you're enjoying my content, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate the support, and if you like the deck list, consider sharing this video as well. Riku of Two Reflections is a 5-mana 2/2 legendary human wizard. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we may pay a blue and a red. If we do, we copy that spell and can choose new targets for the copy. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under our control, we may pay a green and a blue. If we do, we create a token that's a copy of that creature. You'll note that Riku can't copy himself and that the copies made aren't non-legendary. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, Aaron wanted a secret commander in this deck, specifically Brutaclad Telcor Engineer. Brutaclad is a 6-mana 4/4 legendary artificer who's also an artifact creature and who gives creature tokens we control haste. At the beginning of combat on our turn, we create a 2/1 blue mirror artifact creature token. Then we choose a creature token we control. If we do, each other token we control becomes a copy of that token. Now, I've built a Brutaclad deck before where the idea was to copy Smog from there and back again. Even if we didn't have a way to ignore the legend rule, simply making 5 or 6 copies of Smog would result in us gaining a ton of treasures. Also, I've made Riku decks before. Riku is one of my favorite Spellslinger commanders out there. But neither of those were the route I wanted to take with this deck. Instead, we're focused on building an army of tokens. And if Brutaclad is on board, so much the better. Also, Aaron has asked for budget decks for his last few videos, so this time he's requested something a bit higher budget. Apologies to your wallet. But before we get to our deck list, a quick word from our sponsor, Ultimate Guard. Ultimate Guard is made famous by their boulders, solid, reliable, and affordable deck boxes. Boulders are now available in solid colors, like this beautiful white one seen here. Find it if your local game store carries the new Ultimate Guard solid color boulders, or click on the link down below to order yourself one from Amazon. In order to build a functional commander deck, you need lots of different pieces, which is why I try to rely on my handy-dandy checklist. 50 mana sources, usually split between 37 lands and 13 pieces of ramp, 10 pieces of card advantage, 8 to 10 pieces of spot removal, 2 to 3 board wipes, 2 pieces of graveyard hate, and 1 sudden I win card. One last announcement before we get into our video. In addition to streaming on Twitch, I am back to dual streaming on Musings by Danon. It'll mostly be Final Fantasy XIV, but you're more than welcome to pop in and talk about Commander. Honestly, about half my streams are spent talking about manga, anime, or Commander. Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Misty Rainforest, Scalding Tarn, Wooded Foothills, Windswept Heath, Flooded Strand, Bloodstained Mire, Verdant Catacombs, Polluted Delta, Arid Mesa, Ketria Triome, Breeding Pool, Steam Vents, Stomping Ground, Rejuvenating Springs, Training Center, Spire Garden, Dreamroot Cascade, Stormcarved Coast, Rockfall Vale, Hinterland Harbor, Sulphur Falls, Rootbound Crag, Hedge Maze, Thundering Falls, Commercial District, Scavenger Grounds, 3 forests, 3 islands, and 3 mountains make up the land base for our deck. As a reminder, fetch lands don't have a color identity. Just because it says swamp doesn't make it a black card. Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, Rampant Growth, Farseek, 3 Visits, Nature's Lore, Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, Skyshroud Claim, Nyxbloom Ancient, Dockside Extortionist, Stormkiln Artist, Solemn Simulacrum, and Goblin and Archimancer help us to ramp out and stay ahead of the curve. Archmage Emeritus, Growth Spiral, Frantic Search, Eureka Moment, Big Score, Archdruid's Charm, Mystical Tutor, Seagate Restoration, Jeska's Will, Underworld Breach, Teferi's Ageless Insight, Urban Evolution, and Echo of Eons help us to dig through our deck and keep our hands full. 3 Steps Ahead, Reclamation Sage, Beast Within, Narset's Reversal, Counterspell, Negate, Chaos Warp, Heroic Intervention, Return the Favor, Pongify, Fierce Guardianship, Deflecting Swat, and Commit Memory help us to keep our opponents in line. Cyclonic Rift and Blasphemous Act help us to reset the board as needed. Terror of the Peaks, Gruff Triplets, Biovisionary, Thassa Deep Dwelling, Displacer Kitten, and Mystic Reflection make up the core of our deck, and how we plan on winning. Supporting our plan, we've also got Progenitor Mimic, Doppelgang, Rider Replication, Double Major, Mythos of Aluna, Clever Impersonator, Quasi-Duplicate, Rally the Galadrim, Spark Double, Second Harvest, Parallel Lives, Doubling Season, and Elminster's Simulacrum. Now that we have our deck list, let's compare it to our checklist. 51 mana sources split between 37 lands and 14 pieces of ramp. A little high, but Riku can be an expensive commander, so it's fine. 13 pieces of card advantage, 14 pieces of interaction, 2 board wipes, 3 pieces of graveyard hate in Commit Memory, Echo of Eons, and Scavenger Grounds, 1 sudden I win card in Rite of Replication. Rite of Replication, when kicked, creates 5 copies of a single target. If we target Biovisionary and go to our end step, we win the game. If we target Terror of the Peaks, we win the game. 5 triggers from the original Terror of the Peaks, plus each one of the copies triggers 4 times, meaning a total of 25 triggers, each dealing 5 damage for a total of 125 damage. Yes, that's how it works. But my favorite way to win with this deck is Brutaclad combined with Nyxbloom Ancient. As I said earlier, Riku of 2 Reflections is expensive, but Nyxbloom Ancient gives us an absurd amount of mana, and each time we copy it, we triple the amount of mana our lands generate. So if Brutaclad can make a dozen or so copies of Nyxbloom Ancient, our mana will be out of control. 3 to the 12th means each of our lands tap for 531,441 mana. We then use all that mana to cast and copy Seagate Restoration, drawing us a ton of cards, and eventually cast Gruff Triplets, making as many copies of him as possible. Of course, that's a very silly way to win a game of Commander. As I said at the beginning of the video, our goal is to make a clone deck. Most of the clone effects we have in the deck can copy not just our stuff, but our opponents as well. Which means when we clone our opponent's creatures, make numerous copies of them, and then crush them with their own creatures, they only have themselves to blame. Do you have a Riku of 2 Reflections deck? How did you build the deck? Leave a comment below. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cutestuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. You can have a video made or just ask for help building or tuning a deck list. As promised, here's the explanation for what's going on with my Patreon. For the past 2 years, I've been building deck lists for patrons. I started out only making 3 videos a week, but soon upped it to 5. I'm not perfect, I'll be the first to admit that, but I do try to make my patrons a deck they'll like. but I put a limit of 20 on my Patreon Commander tier because there's only so much time in the month. Each video takes me between 3 to 4 hours to make. From building the initial deck list to scripting and then recording the audio is about a half a day of labor. I then hand it over to cutestuff to edit. Overall, this is a long, drawn-out process, and there's only so much time in the month. And every week, I get at least one message asking me when a spot will open up on my Patreon. Well, that time is today. Actually, it was about 2 weeks ago since I make my videos in advance and schedule them for the future. Anyway, we split the Commander tier in two. There is now a lower-cost Commander tier where I just make a deck for you. This tier will not have a limit, and anyone who joins it will get one deck list per month. But if you want a video on your deck, it will be the same tier as my anime and manga video tier. Now, those videos will be longer with a more in-depth explanation of the deck. There is a rule in business. When you run out of time because you have too many customers, you increase your price. This will unfortunately cause some of your customers to cancel. This is regrettable, but necessary if I want to make content creation a full-time career. I've had more fulfillment and fun doing content creation than any job I've ever had, but I didn't even break $3,000 last year from YouTube earnings. This is why you see so many YouTubers pushing their Patreon. In closing, I also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Danny, Muffins, Marcus, Squishy, Brett, Roxy, Sean, Mark, Borgie, Nazwin, Pedro, Midge, Alex, Alex, Julio, Valeri, Conga, RJ, Aaron, Chris, Robert, Joel, Brock, Michael, Skinwalker, Sidewinder, and Austin. You guys are awesome. I post new Commander Deck videos every weekday, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of new videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Commander by Danon.